This is my first ever interview with another artist, but he's a good friend of mine. And I would like to introduce you to RiverKinn.
What's up? What's poppin', baby?
Yeah, I'm going to be asking him just, strictly real questions.
Strictly real. We also went to B-Dubs earlier. He got some mild wings, pussy.
Getting third-degree burns on my face over that.
Now we're drinking the hard seltzer, my G.
Hard seltzers.
You know how it be.
So I'd like to start out by asking, what are your top 3 least favorite White Claw flavors?
Worst one, raspberry. Sorry. Second worst, lemon. Third worst, lime. Number 1, watermelon. Number 2, either black cherry or mango. They both compete for number 2. Sometimes I feel a black cherry is like what I need.
If you got that 12-pack in the fridge and it's 5 p.m., which one are you resorting to?
Depends on which one is in the front. If I open it up, whatever one's there, I'm gonna drink it. So,
but then you're at a disadvantage when you're pulling it out the box and there's like 3 flavors per row. So you're really,
yeah, absolutely.
There's a curation.
That's why it's just more worth my time and effort to drink whatever the fuck is in the front. If I hate raspberry and raspberry's in the front, that's my fault. I opened it from the wrong side. So, whatever.
You just take it where you can.
Yeah, it's a White Claw, man.
It's a White
drink
Claw.
it. You just drink it. I'm still going to drink the raspberries. Don't get me wrong. I hate them, but I'm still going to drink them.
It's just something you bear through.
Mm-hmm.
Something that you don't have to bear through. Kind of give me a history of your performance and kind of where you got your start with that.
Like performing, period?
Yeah.
The first time I ever performed in front of a live audience, period, ever. I was probably 15 years old. I was in high school, obviously. I was in a band called Girls Go to Jupiter, a pop punk band. Maybe a little hardcore in it. Like we were kind of that like post-alternative weird kind of like, early 2000s, like 2000, this would have been 2008 maybe, like I guess late 2000s. So like the era of like A Day to Remember and shit like that. So that was like the kind of style of our band. And the first time I ever performed was at a place called Gathering Grounds. And I was the lead singer, obviously, because I'm fucking gas. But so we used to play at this place called Gathering Grounds. We played at this place called The Attic, which like we opened for a ton of like really big bands like Attack and stuff. Like if you know that type of music, you'll know the bands that I'm talking about. But it was all these like little venues. A lot of them were for fucking some reason they're Christian venues. I don't know why that kind of music like gravitated or at least like had a home in like Christian venues. A lot of times like the owners would be like super fucking anal about like no cursing on stage, no like the second a curse word comes out of your mouth like the set's over type shit, like well cut the sound off and all that, Did
you ever run into any crazy instances?
No, we'd cuss, like it didn't matter, like they never stopped the show, but at the same time like it was just a weird time to be, and I was young. I was like, we were recording in like a legitimate studio and everything, and we had MySpace followers and what, but that's where I really started like performing music, like singing in front of people. The first time I technically sung in front of anybody was in like 2nd grade, and I did a duet in front of my church. And like, there was like 800, 900 people in that bitch.
Goodness.
And I was like a fucking 8-year-old singing with this girl that had a crush on me, and I hated her. I did not like her at all. She used to chase me on the playground. But I sang this duet like as a child in front of all these people. Killed it. Fucking gas. So good. It was
the same feeling you got when you sung that.
I immediately knew that like this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Do you get that feeling still when you perform?
Absolutely. Especially when you see like certain people's like facial expressions or like you hit a high note and everybody starts cheering, like that kind of stuff. Like it gives you the reassurance of like, yo, you're obviously like pretty okay at what you're doing. So maybe you should keep doing it. Right. But, I don't know. I mean, I always sang in the car. I always fucking like, I told you earlier, is like, I used to fucking harmonize with songs that like my mom would play like some 80s pop song or some shit, some Duran Duran or some fucking whatever. And I would like harmonize with the vocals on a Sting song as a fucking 5-year-old. And I remember vividly like going down this hill and my mom hearing me harmonize with this song. And she was like, yo, David, that's like a really good harmony. You know, like those kind of moments like really instilled in me, like I'm okay at what I do at the very least. Like I'm a pretty okay singer, so I should pursue it. It's just that little tiny weird moment of encouragement from your parents that like they didn't really mean to encourage this thing. It wasn't like she was saying, yo, I want you to be a singer because I know that you can harmonize. It was more so just her like appreciating this thing I was doing, and it kind of like stuck. So I started singing a lot. And, you know, I remember every single time in my life as a child, I could count them on one hand. Like, it didn't happen all the time, but like that anytime like a family member, my mom, my sister, anybody would like say something positive about me singing. There was one time I was in my basement and I was singing the national anthem for fucking God knows why. And my sister opened the door and she was like, yo, like that, you're like actually a really good singer. And my mom was in the other room all the way, and I heard her yell like, yeah, isn't he? Like, and I'm like, those moments were just that kind of the flame to the gasoline that I needed in order to like think that, okay, like this is worth thinking I'm good at.
It's the tipping point.
At least, like I'm sure that like by now, like the comparison of me as a 7-year-old versus now, like singing wise, I'm much better now. But at the same time, like those are the moments that kind of like pushed me to even consider this as something I could do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then I was in that band. That was cool. That was my first experience like singing. We had like fans and everything. It was like really cool. But I also didn't want to be in a band. It was like just a thing I did. It wasn't like a passionate part of my life. I was trying to be a filmmaker and an actor and like a writer. And so the band was just sort of this thing I do. We started getting offers to like do Warped Tour and get signed by labels and I was like, yo, I just want you guys to know if this ever happens, like I'm not going to be in the band. So basically immediately the band broke up because there's no lead singer. Like, fuck.
Yeah,
I ruined everything. I'm so fucking upset about it. I wish that I would have just stuck with it because we would have easily been able to like have a moderately decent career as musicians as like 16-year-olds, you know? So I didn't do that. I went to film school, dropped out of 2 different film schools, whatever. The whole time I was doing that, I was like into rap. So I had been like writing raps. I'd been recording raps that like I put on, you know, nowhere. Nobody listened to them. It wasn't like a big thing. It was just something I did. And I started like really like getting into freestyling and shit. And so I would do like rap battles or I would like just, you know, cypher with people or whatever it was. And I was probably like 19, 20, 21 tops, like at this point in time in my life. And I worked at this hookah bar and they had these open mic nights. And so I'm the only white kid at this open mic, like, you know, spoken word poetry type shit, right? There's like 35, 40-year-old plus, like I'm the only white kid. Everybody else is like a passionate poet. And then I'm the skinny jean peacoat white kid with the Justin Bieber hair that comes up and asks for an instrumental and starts rapping about like chopping up your body parts, like some Eminem shit. Like I was very much like into the lyrical, spiritual miracle type bullshit. But it was at the very least entertaining for those people. I had like the respect of these people that were far and beyond what I was in terms of, you know, writers or artists or, you know, they're talking about some real life shit and I'm coming up there and I'm just doing some shit that's fun. Maybe it lightens the mood or gives some levity to the night because everybody's talking about some like really hardcore, like deep-seated issues that they're talking, you know, some spoken word poetry about. And then I come up and I start saying some bullshit that's funny and everyone starts laughing and everybody's, you know, whether it was just the novelty of me being this young white kid or it was good for what it was, regardless, it still like worked for me.
Yeah, I think there's always kind of like gonna be a need for that though. You know, there's always a place for the serious thing, but there's a place for the funny and especially serious moments too, where it needs to diffuse a situation where there's a sort of tension in a room that.
Well, it would have been a very depressing night most nights if it wasn't for me, you know, and I don't want to like take credit for it being like more fun,
brag.
But like it, you know, a lot of times it would be people talking about, you know, their abuse as a child, or their abortion they got, or their, you know, father never being there or something. And then I come up and I'm me, you know, and it kind of gave a lot of like, it gave everyone a moment to breathe.
It's not to discredit their story.
Not at all, by any means. But
yeah.
it was, I think to them, they recognized or appreciated at least like what it was. Like it was what it was, and they appreciated it for what it was. And so like I had immediately the respect of like my elders, basically. And like in a culture that I was no part of, right? You know, like I had no right to be speaking on the kind of stuff they were speaking on. And so I didn't. I talked about some shit that I obviously didn't ever do. And it was just to be funny and to be entertaining. And it, like, they liked it. And the fact that those people that I had so much respect for gave me their respect back, you know, that was a huge, like, it was a push. It gave me a lot of momentum in terms of like how I am as an artist. And I started like thinking, okay, well, if these people that like have every reason not to like me or to like not be cool with what I'm doing, they all like what I'm doing. Maybe I have something here, right? So I started just rapping all the time. I started writing. I started shooting like some shitty ass fucking music videos in this 1 bedroom apartment with 3 guys that I lived with. Like I was sleeping on a fucking futon for a year. Like, and I'm shooting music videos in his apartment and just walking through and like had my asshole friends that I didn't even know that well, like, yeah, guys, get in this music video with me. Like, stand on the couch and just jump around and act hype. You know what I mean? Just, it was a weird time for me. I was definitely going through like a phase of like understanding myself. But
where do you think the major change musically from those moments where the direction for the music and the video is kind of like that, or that's your situation? But like, what do you think has changed most? Or you've grown.
I think it's just like all of it is pretty gradual, right? Like I was still super young. I was just excited about doing something that I was passionate about. And so in order to do that, I had to like make good on everything I had available to me. And if that all that I had available to me was a camera and 4 dudes that I hardly know and a couch, like that's what the music video is going to be. And so you know, I made sure that I at least like was doing something. Obviously, like looking back at a lot of that stuff, it's like by no means like up to the production value of what I have a standard for at this moment, but like it still was what it was at the time. And if I was stoked at it when I was 21, like I'm still just as stoked about what I do now, regardless of the fact that like what I do now is probably a lot higher production value. So regardless of any of the like, I don't know. I could look back and be embarrassed about stuff, but I'm not, because of the fact that it is so important to the way that I got where I am now. So those shitty videos or like not very good songs or whatever I was doing, these fucking open mic nights or whatever, all lended themselves to basically create what I am now. So it's like super important to me that I don't forget the fact that I started like doing, like I would go down to the college campus and walk from house to house and find like my friend would go in and be like, who thinks they can rap? And they'd come out to the front yard and I'd battle rap them and embarrass them in front of their friends. I got in so many fights and like just, you know, people getting upset because I would like, I remember one time I was at University of Dayton. That's where I usually went. But I would go like down what they call the ghetto, which is like so fucking inappropriate. It's not even close. It's just a bunch of white kids in like college housing.
So it's probably white kids calling it ghetto then.
Yes, yeah. But it's just like a couple streets of like all, frat houses or just like college housing basically. And everyone's partying like all the fucking time. And so we'd go from house to house. And like I said, like my friend would go in and be like, yo, who thinks they can rap? Who thinks they can rap battle my friend? And it would be like I don't know, like a novelty, basically, like, yo, and they look at me and they'd be like, there's no way I'm not going to fucking beat this kid. Because I just didn't look the part, right? And then I would just shred them. There was this one time I rap battled this dude and I was out in the front yard, like I said, like rap battling this dude. All his friends are around. I had like 3 people with me, tops, maybe 2. So it's just like me being the outsider coming in, and then I just embarrassed the shit out of this kid. Said something. He had like a hat with like a Ford logo on it, and I said something about like, I don't know, why you wear a Ford hat when you can't afford that type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, and I tapped.
Typical battle rap
I was
shit.
like a dick, and I like tapped the top of the rim of his hat and like knocked it down, and then he just started swinging.
Oh no!
You know what I mean? Like it was like I just embarrassed him so bad and like disgraced him.
You expected him not to be Ford tough?
I didn't, dude. Yeah, he thought he was Ford tough. The fight was immediately broken up. Like everyone jumped in and pulled us apart. But
Bro, if you have words strong enough to make someone want to fight you, there's something to say about that. There's a little bit of an impact that's being made there on your part.
it is what it is. But like those were the moments that gave me the, like I said, like the momentum to think that like this could easily be a career for me.
And for that sake, like there's really no lead up to wanting to do that other than someone coming in the party and being like, yo, get out here, record this, like, or not record this, but like go battle rap this guy. But like when you're in the studio actually making music and it's you going out of your way, is there like a protocol or is there some sort of ritual you follow before you create?
In terms of like just making a song in general?
Before you even get on the computer, like what? Before you even get on your keyboard, anything. Like, what is your?
I wake up at like 8:30 in the morning, maybe 9 at the latest. I go downstairs, I chug a glass of water, usually put raw cranberry juice in it, and then I make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Normally it's tea, sometimes it's coffee if I'm like having a rough morning. And then by 9 a.m., 9:30 at the latest, I'm on the computer making beats, working on music like every single day. And that's the protocol. I don't know. Like if I'm in the vibe, I'll do it. But I also know myself well enough to know that like even if I'm at some studio with some random in some place that I've never been before and they're like, yo, like I got studio time, let's go through whatever. Like I'll be there, and if I'm not feeling it, like I'll maybe lay some scratch vocals down or some shit, but like I'm not like opposed to saying like I don't want to get on the mic right now. Like I'm not feeling it, or I'm not, maybe this isn't the beat for me, or I'm just like in the vibe in the room is like not for me. Like it happens probably like less often than it happens that it works really well, but I either am super into it or I'm super not, and I'm not afraid to be like, oh, it's cool, like you can send me this later with an open and I'll do it when I'm home and I'm feeling confident about this beat or about this song or something. Like it, I would rather it not happen. Obviously, I would rather just like every single time I'm in the fucking booth and I'm got a mic in front of me, I can spit some shit that I'm stoked on. But like a lot of the outside influences, like who I'm working with or where I'm at or what the beat is or et cetera, like that obviously influences like how stoked I am or how in the moment or how in like the vibe of the song I am. And if I'm not in the vibe of the song, like I'm not going to record just because I know it's not going to come out the way I want it to.
And when you have a song with multiple vibes on it, like Glue off Kairos, what is it that leads a song from being alternative into morphing to a dubstep track? Will you pass me that other White Claw, please?
Yeah, my G.
Thank you,
You
bro.
already know.
But I'm trying to figure out where the creativity shifts from like an alternative song that goes into like a dubstep that breaks down with the vocal chops. Like every element that's in the genre is kind of fused into that one song. Like how does a song like that get created?
A lot of it is just me pulling from like I don't know, like I used to make dubstep music before I was even a rapper, or I guess like, I mean, I was rapping at the time, but like,
what name did you go under?
A jumps, B shoots. Like if you're explaining how to play a video game, A jumps, B shoots. That was my like EDM producer name or whatever. And I used to DJ shows, I got paid, like I was fucking doing things, and this was before Skrillex even was like a name that people knew. So I was pretty early on the scene in terms of like EDM, dubstep, whatever. And that's when I really started producing. That's when I started using FL Studio. That's when I like learned about how this shit works. Like a lot of that time was spent basically like trial and error, like learning how to be a producer and how to perform, even DJing was like learning some things about performance and how to build a set list and how to, keep people entertained for X amount. I used to play hour-long sets, which to me now as RiverKinn, that's like a fucking unheard of thing. 30 minutes max. Like I could definitely do, like I have enough content to do an hour-long set or a 2-hour-long set, but like people don't ever book you for that.
Well, the vocal toll it takes to be able
Well,
to
and
deliver.
the kind of music that I make is like pretty exhausting to perform for that long. Like I can easily, like not easily necessarily, but like I could do an hour-long set and be okay. A 2-hour-long set or some shit, like the way that people do like big festival shows, or like I'm the headliner at some like tour, I could never, like, I would need an intermission for me to like go and like change my clothes and drink some water and like throw some shit on my face or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'd be exhausted by the end of the hour. And it's just not what I'm used to. Regardless of that, like that was a lot of my like understanding of how, not only like how to perform, but how shows work, how promotion works, how getting booked works, how getting paid works. You know, how do you interact with the people that are opening for you or the people that you're opening for? How do you interact with your audience when there's fans of yours that you've recognized from the last 3 shows and they're there, and like how do you interact with them? Are they your friends now, or are they like people that you just like respect and give attention to? Like there's a lot of nuances to like being a performer, especially if you're just playing locally, which is what I was doing at the time, doing the like EDM shit. I was only playing around like the Dayton area. And so like, and people knew me in that area, and I had like a lot of like, I don't want to say a lot, but like I was at the time doing pretty well on the internet in terms of numbers, and definitely better than most of the people I was performing with. Like I was headlining most of the time. And so I didn't ever have any experience like that at the time. I was only fucking 21, 20. Like I started doing those EDM shows when I was like 20 years old. Couldn't even buy a beer, and they would just give me alcohol because that was part of my payment, was like a $50 bar tab. So like the bartender didn't even ask for my ID. He'd be just like bringing me beers while I'm DJing and shit. And so like it was just a weird, like, and especially the EDM scene. Like I don't know how much you've ever been involved in an EDM scene, but like drugs are rampant. It's pretty fucking like extreme in terms of what people do when they go to some like show with fucking 25 people there. Everybody's on fucking acid. You know, what's it like to be a 20-year-old that's never done any psychedelics, and I barely drink, and I'm performing in front of a bunch of people on acid that all already know who I am? Very strange fucking moment in my life to do some shit like that. And it was kind of overwhelming at some level. I needed, like, the reason I stopped doing it was because I was like, I'm just not fucking ready for this. You know, there were house shows that I would do that all of a sudden I'm in the bathroom with like some 35-year-olds doing cocaine and shit, and I'm literally like barely 21, and I've never done any of these drugs. I don't know any of these people, like, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, how did I get here? Type shit. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of references on Kairos to drugs and dealing with them, and are any of those times from your past representative in the music now?
I would say that like probably subconsciously they are. I didn't ever like in any of the songs on Kairos, I'd never like looked back at like that time in my life and was like, oh, let me write about that. It was never like an intentional thing, but I think that those things influence me regardless, you know, even if I'm not necessarily like consciously thinking of that moment in my life or that memory. Those times, you know, when I was involved in that scene and when I was doing that thing and I was first like sort of, I don't know, experiencing success in something that I started myself and I was doing myself. And all of a sudden I'm surrounded by like, you know, what they would call the fucking sex, drugs, and rock and roll type shit. Like the EDM scene is so big on that it like, and I didn't know that. I never went into it with the intention of like, oh, let me make music so I can get drugs or get laid or be popular or whatever. And I was never like a popular kid. So all of a sudden it's like this entire scene is like stoked on me. All these girls want to fucking hang out. All these dudes want to give me drugs. All these people want to pay me to come fucking DJ their goddamn house party or whatever. Like I did it, but I also was like just not, I was so naive. Like I was not ready to be doing it. I didn't know how to like be in control of what I was doing. It was more so just I saw an opportunity and said yes. Eventually that got too overwhelming for me. And so I said like I'm done. And I had a whole album even, like I was ready to drop that was so good. I had a label that was about to drop it with me, and I was just like, I'm done with this. I can't be like involved with the scene anymore.
Is there anything that you want to comment onto that in terms of this perception that people have that the fame and success and the material goods that come with this, what do you have to comment onto that?
Well, I mean,
Because it doesn't affect you.
It was super minimal. Like, I mean, like there was a scene of maybe like 200 kids where I was playing. All 200 of those kids, and sometimes they were fucking adults, and it was creepy that there's like some 35-year-old fucking dude here with like 16-year-old girls at the same time. Like, there was no like rules. It was just everyone's on drugs, everybody's whatever they are, and they're all, you know, of all different walks of life. Like, that was cool. The fact that it was kind of accepting in that sense, but at the same time, it like when I would objectively look at it, I'm like, this is weird, man. Like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And it just like, it got to a point, I did one house party and like basically got like sexually assaulted by this girl. She like, I went to the bathroom and she like opened the door and came in and like blah, blah, blah. She just straight up like grabbed my dick. And like, obviously like I was fucking like 19, 20 years old and I'm on fucking Xanax for the first time. And I'm like, this is sick. Like, you know, but looking back at it, like that's not cool. Like it wasn't. It was a very fucking strange and uncomfortable time in my life. But I think a lot of us that were in that scene were also going through that. Like we're trying to find ourselves in some way. And, you know, you deal with what you deal with when you put yourself in those positions. But at the same time, like it was still just a time in my life when I was very naive. Naive is the best way I could describe it. I was willing to do whatever and be wherever, but I was also like had no concept of what's okay and what's not. And you know, I think luckily, you know, it sounds shitty to say, but luckily I was on the receiving end of the not knowing rather than the giving end. I didn't end up like doing some fuck shit that I shouldn't have done. I was more so like I was the popular dude that was a fucking nerd, and all of a sudden like, and I'd never had girls like me like that. I'd never had, you know, people want to give me drugs. I'd never had like, and all of a sudden it's the opposite, like the total complete opposite. And so that was my first experience of people like not knowing me as a human being, but they knew me for what I did. And all of a sudden that makes me important. And so like as much as I like clung to that, I also learned so much from it because of like knowing that like you don't need to trust everybody. You don't need to be best friends with everybody. You don't need to like take what you do so personally that like it becomes who you are. Like you can be a person and do a thing and they can be somewhat separate, and it's important to have, you know, a personal life and a personal like a personality that doesn't always have to 100% translate to like what your lifestyle is as like your career. You know, me being a musician, going out and like doing shows and traveling and meeting new people and whatever it is, like that doesn't necessarily need to dictate how I am as a human being, like what my morality is, what my virtues are, like all that kind of stuff is way more important than how do people perceive me as this fucking musician or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it boils down to not embracing the persona to the point where it blurs the lines with your true reality.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of people lose touch with that and lose sight, and they get caught up in the life that you wanted to escape at that moment where the deal was in front of you and you could have had it. And like,
but I knew I wasn't ready, and I knew that like, especially at that point in time, like I knew that I'm going to die in the next 2 years if I fucking do this, you know,
because of the environment that you were subjected to.
Yeah, absolutely. And because of I was self-aware enough to know that if I do this now, by the time I'm 23, like I'm gonna be addicted to every drug and I'm gonna be a fucking piece of shit and I'm gonna die. Like I just knew it. I fucking knew it. And so I said, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And so I took a step back. I kept producing, I kept like focusing on that, but I had been rapping the whole time. And so that's when I became the video, and I started making mixtapes and putting them on fucking DatPiff. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and it was like a total step back from the amount of like attention and like success that I had, but it also was more rewarding because not only now am I like producing these beats that I really like, but I'm also expressing myself vocally about the things that I'm experienced and like the way that I feel about life and et cetera, et cetera. Like I started making these mixtapes and I can't even say that like I started off unsuccessful. Like I immediately like had people that were like stoked on me rapping. And I had been doing it for so long, like in the background, whether I'm doing these open mic nights or I'm doing some random fucking rap song on MySpace Music or whatever, you know what I mean? But like whatever it was, like I had always been rapping. And at the same time, I had dropped out of film school. I was like kind of like looking for something to do with my life at the time. And I noticed like, what's the thing that you've always done that you never needed anything from? You just did it because you loved doing it. You know, as much as film was that for me for a long time, like I at some point was like, I don't want to touch a camera if I'm not getting X amount of dollars, because I started getting paid for it. And so it was like one of those things where it like turned into a career rather than a passion. The thing that I'd always done other than drawing was fucking rap. I'd always written raps and recorded raps and like loved rap music, hip hop. Like it was part of my life that was transcendent of like, this is a career choice. And so I decided like, yo, like, well, what if I went for this? And, you know, did the video for 5, 6, 7 years.
Can you give me a timestamp on like when all of these monikers kind of spread out? And where
okay, yeah, let's kind of break it down. So I started out, let's just start with A Jumps B Shoots, the EDM shit. I did that from probably like 2010 to 2012. I had already been making songs as the video in 2012. I just kind of like gave up the A Jumps B Shoots shit, did the video from 2012 to 2015. It's Christmas Day or Christmas Eve of 2015. I had dropped my first RiverKinn album, which originally was like advertised as a video album. But I knew I needed to change my name. I had a long, like, storied history as the video in Stay Gold Collective, and like I don't even need to go into that because that's such a long story. It's gonna take fucking 3 hours to talk about. But so I was in this collective of people, and I was the video, and I was like doing really well. And then I knew that I needed to separate myself from all these people and from that history of like those 5 years back catalog of fucking mixtapes and shit on DatPiff. And I had changed my style so much that I was like, yo, okay, so change my name. Boom. I had this whole album that was so different than anything I'd ever done, and that ended up being Kitsune by RiverKinn, you know? And that was my first album, dropped on Christmas Eve of 2015. And since then, that's what I've been doing, is RiverKinn.
And our buddy Nolan, Kill Station, when did he come into the picture for you with RiverKinn?
Well, with RiverKinn, that's different because, I mean...
Because I know
he's
known you for a very long time.
Well, we've like sent each other like music. Even when I was A Jumps B Shoots and shit, like we were, you know, sending each other.
So you guys are going back a decade.
We've been in really hardcore communication since he was like 11 years old. So, you know, for what it's worth.
That's 12 years.
I wish it would have been earlier, but at the same time, like, that's when we really got in contact with each other. And so it was, you know, at the beginning, it was us making like jackass videos, you know, us doing like stunt videos and pranks and shit with our friends and like putting them on MySpace or YouTube or whatever. And it was like, that was our thing that we had in common, like after everything, like, and I finally got to talk to him and like, it just basically went from there. So
speaking of jackass videos, you have quite the fascination with Camp Kill Yourself. Can you comment on when and what part of your life that...
You know what I just noticed? You got a CK shirt on. How sick would that shirt be if it was like a CKY shirt?
Camp Kill Yourself.
Yeah, but if there was a Y on it, that would be so sick. If CKY like took the CK design and just put a Y on the end of it.
CKY, I need you to copy Calvin Klein.
Yeah, Jesse boy. Just fucking... I'll send you a design.
It's nice. I'm fucking with it. If you did, I'd purchase.
But no, I grew up watching CKY videos. I was big into skateboarding. That was like my fucking TV. Like that was Jackass before Jackass existed. That was like my entertainment. Didn't have my dad around a lot, so my male role models were like fucking Eminem and Bam Margera. You know, like...
I wonder how much of the American population and the youth that's accurate for.
I hope so. That's not just me.
Thank you, dude.
But at the same time, like, that's just, I picked basically like the worst role models I could possibly pick. You know what I'm saying? Like the fucking assholes of the generation. But that was the people I related with. Or the people that didn't give a fuck, that nobody liked, and they just fucking did their thing. And that resonated so hard with me that I couldn't not be inspired by them. And so here we are.
I remember being at one of my buddies Steven's house, and we'd probably be there after baseball practice, and we'd be watching that, or we'd be watching Nitro Circus. Rest in peace to Eric Roner. But
rest in peace Ryan Dunn, dude.
Yes, absolute legends. That makes me sad to think about. But
seriously,
they have made something so significant within entertainment, and especially television.
Well, they were lightning in a bottle, man. It's like you could never do that now. You couldn't have done that 5 years earlier. You couldn't have done it 5 years later. It was literally just the moment and the time, and they literally hit the nail right on the fucking head. That's all it was. Lightning in a bottle. You could never replicate it.
What resonated?
I think it was like the idea of just being unapologetically yourself, and like fuck everyone that doesn't like you, and you don't need to be afraid to tell them to fuck off. That was, I think, the big thing for me, is that I had all these people that didn't like me for any fucking reason you could name, like whether I dressed this way or I acted this way or liked this kind of music or fucking liked anime or played video games, like whatever the fuck it was. Anything that anybody could make fun of me for, they would do it. I was an easy target. And then I started like seeing like these dudes like doing the same kind of shit that I was into and not giving a shit. And it just suddenly like dawned on me that I don't need to give a shit. And I'm like able to fight back. Like you can tell them to fuck off. If it starts to fight, whatever, beat them up. I got my ass kicked all the time in high school, and I finally like started fighting back, and then I fucking started kicking people's asses. And then it was like I all of a sudden had this newfound power. This newfound sort of like individualism, or this identity that I didn't have prior. And so it became like this super important thing to me to have these people in my life that I didn't know. They didn't know me. They probably, like would give a shit less. But like that gave me this inspiration to like stand up for myself in a way, a very strange way, but it, like, all of a sudden, I was willing to give my teacher the finger or fucking punch the asshole football player back or,
just resist.
Whatever. Yeah, just to stand up for myself. Like, it just made me feel like I'm worth not fucking getting my ass kicked and being a pussy about it. Like, I would have gotten made fun of by, like, Bam or any of those guys for being the way that I was, so I didn't want to be that way. I wanted to be what they would think was cool. So I fucking, it gave me this sort of fire in my belly of like, and I know it's so backwards and strange, like that you would get an inspiration like that from some shit like fucking CKY, but that's what it did for me. And it gave me this like sort of, I don't know.
Do you feel like that sense of attitude you gain from that resonates in your music, or it transcribes into it, where because a lot of your music is very introspective and it's very thought out in a lot of ways, and it's looking at your emotion and your relationships and what goes on in your life. But do you feel like any of that attitude where you feel like from your youth and kind of soaking that stuff up, does it like kind of translate into that at all?
I mean, it's obviously that it does in some subconscious way. I don't think it's ever a conscious thing that it like takes precedent or like I'm something that I'm drawing from specifically, but it has to be an influence. Like it's my past. That's what my whole, like everything I talk about is like things I've experienced, whether it's yesterday or it's, when I was fucking 13. So there's no way I could say that it's not an influence. I think a lot of what it comes down to is like my confidence in myself, is knowing that like I could possibly be right and everyone else be wrong. And in some ways that sort of like culture of like the do whatever you want and fuck everybody else sort of thing as entertainment, and it was successful, to see that as like, well, then I can just like make whatever kind of music I want. I can make a pop song like Glue, or I can make some fucking sad ass acoustic shit like Black Widow. And it still is me. It's not because I only can do one thing. Like I can do all these different things, and it doesn't matter if somebody has an opinion about it because I know that it was me. And that is, I think, what really I took away from that. I don't know if it's, necessarily like the main reason or, the thing that I think of. Like I don't prioritize like remembering how I felt in that era of my life necessarily when I'm writing, but it still is certainly like a subconscious thing that I take with me when I go into a studio or I'm sitting down listening to this beat and I'm writing. It has to be because it's part of who I am. So there's no way that it couldn't be part of what I'm doing.
And as that is, there's a lot of people that get into music who quit, whether it be 6 months, a year, or a couple of years, and kind of lose hope, or they don't see the results they desire. You've been making music for over a decade at this point, and the quality has always risen and always achieved like new points. But what inspires you to keep going?
Inspires me to keep going is, I think, just myself. Like, what am I gonna do? There's only so many things. I got fucking knuckle tattoos. I got dyed hair, painted nails. Like, what am I gonna go be a fucking dishwasher? Like, I've done that already. I'm done with that shit. So what have I got? I've got what I'm good at, and that's what I'm doing. And that's what I've spent so many fucking years of my life doing and getting better and better and better at. Like, it is what it is at this point to me. I committed myself to something, and I'm a very loyal person to myself in that aspect. So, like, if I start doing something, until I, like, literally hit, like, the fucking wall, and I hit it 3, 4, 5 times, and it's just like, this isn't gonna fucking pan out. I'm not gonna give up on it. And I have every reason to believe that everything I've been doing is like, look at my fucking, like, I look at my Spotify graph and it's just whoosh, like straight upwards. Until it starts going down, like I don't even need to think about that. You know what I mean? Like I've got something going on that's working, and it's working better and better every time I do it. It would be foolish of me to step away from that only because I'm worried that it wouldn't. It's this you gotta commit. It's the same, like it's a concept that's so beneficial. I wish everyone would fucking skate at some point in their life. It's like dropping in on a skateboard on a half pipe. Like, you have to commit. If you don't commit, you're not gonna fucking do it. You're not gonna make it. You're gonna bail. You're gonna bust your ass. You're gonna fucking whatever. If you commit and you do it and you trust yourself to make it work, and you've seen other people do it, it's possible. It's not like this impossible fucking thing to do. But you finally, like, really, like, you're going to fall a lot on the way to finding out how to do it. But you finally figure out the way to do it, and it starts, like, fucking working. You ride over to the other side. Like, that is where I'm at now. It's like, I'm riding over to the other side now. Like, now I'm on the board. Now I'm fucking going. So, am I going to bail the second I get to the other side, or am I gonna, try to hit a fucking sick ass indie, like, hit a melon grab and fucking hope I don't hang up on the coping? Like, it's gonna be fine. It's one of those things you just gotta trust yourself, and once you find out how to do that, it becomes so much more rewarding and so easy to do it. And that's where I'm at right now. It's like it's just fucking working, and I'm stoked on it.
Yeah.
I'm stoked as fuck about it.
I'm sure a lot of the rewards you've gotten from music have been from live performances, but something noteworthy from your live performances is your creation of Foxnight, which would have had a fifth year this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was not in the cards for the United States of America this 2020. It's all right. We'll get there. I'm just thinking that it's going to be better to hold off for, 2021. It's just not the year to be trying to throw to the kind of live show that Foxnight is. You got fucking painters and stuff. You got people selling clothes. You got people making food. This year we had like literally like food trucks and shit all lined up to like be there. People like making edible brownies and shit. Like we had a barbecue food truck that was part of it. We had I had all this shit set up like in December of last year.
I would have been eating pulled pork on.
Yeah, and they had vegan food too. It was like literally everything was good to go.
Man,
had all these artists like coming from out of state. They were ready to go. Like the venue was like booked and ready, everything. And we all know what happened, you know.
We've been living it. We've been doing it.
We've been living it. But
2021, I hope, is promising.
But so, yeah, I mean, like, if you want a little background on Foxnight, it's just like this thing that I had this idea for. It's like, let me be the curator. Let me be the one who picks, like, my friends that I like their music and I want them to perform and I want everybody to see the people that I have a taste for, you know? Because there's a lot of artists around where I live and I like almost all of them. But, like, some of them stand out to me and I want to give them a platform, right? And it's kind of this like entrepreneurial spirit in me. It's like I wanted to be a mogul in the film industry when I was younger, and like maybe I can be some sort of, you know, I don't know if mogul would be the right word, but like I want to be some sort of tastemaker in terms of where I'm at in my community. I want people to respect the people that I fuck with, and so that was basically what the idea of Foxnight was. And it's not just musicians, it's like I said, like the fucking people painting and art. Like I have a ton of friends that do like literal like painted artwork and they're amazing and they don't have the kind of exposure or the platform that they deserve. That on top of like, and how cool is it that like, you know, this venue that has two sides, one side of it, it's got like people selling vintage clothes or people selling their own brand of designs or whatever.
And if people at home want to know what we're talking about the Mockbee venue in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh yeah, it's just Google it because I could explain it for an hour and a half. It's so awesome. But you know, one side is people, you know, selling their clothes, and you got people live painting. Excuse me, jeez. Ugh. You got people selling their clothes. You got people like live painting. You know, like whether they have like a subject that they're painting or not, it's like, you know, you're watching people like create this art and then they've got a bunch of their art like hung up and like ready to sell or whatever. The other side is this whole like long hallway with like a big stage and lighting and like projectors and sound and everything is like it's so sick in this venue. And I've got the opportunity to showcase all these people I fuck with, you know, and on different levels. Like I've got my friends that make fucking, like my friend Tasha, she owns this brand called Proper Nar. It's like a female skateboarding company. And recently she's been getting fucking massive amounts of attention. I'm so stoked for her. She was in like fucking People magazine or something shit. I don't know.
Jesus.
I don't know, man. Like, but you know, African American woman. She owns her own brand. She's doing something that's like very much not a female kind of like area to do. Like
which needs more female attention.
Yes, it absolutely, and she's killing it. She's doing so great. But since Foxnight 1, she's always been there.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean? And she's like, it's just that's kind of like people I put on there is like people I know that like beyond what you do, like I just like you as a person, and I want to help give you some opportunity to advertise or expand your reach, or at the very least it makes the show better, you know, because there's somebody there that I fuck with. And if you come to Foxnight, you most people would understand that like Foxnight is called Foxnight because it's my night. So everybody that's on there is somebody I handpicked to be on the show, and it becomes this very special thing for me, especially because it's, you know, my friends and the people that I'm like stoked on, and I give them this opportunity of this night to be a part of, you know, this community, or at least like expose themselves to maybe people that they never had the opportunity to get in front of before.
Yeah, and maybe some people should show up to Foxnight and really see, because I've seen people like painting live during the show, doing full-on paintings throughout the entire night, starting at like 7 p.m., going until 1:30, 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to see that, like, you're like, okay, I like this live venue. I'm going to go grab a drink. I'm going to go check out some clothes. Like, there's so much more to Foxnight than music.
I like, not to toot my own horn, but no one ever did a show like I do Foxnight until I did Foxnight. And then every show had artists, had fashion, you know, resellers from vintage clothes, whatever, like every single show after the first Foxnight at the Mockbee became Foxnight. And I don't want to like necessarily claim credit. I can understand that other people could have the same ideas as me. but it seems very unlikely that all of a sudden I did this fucking innovative thing and now it's like the standard, you know? So like I do take some sort of pride in that, but I also respect all the other people that have done something similar, because a lot of those people are my friends and they were at Foxnight 1 and they, you know, maybe saw something that worked and they took that to heart. And I'm stoked the fact that, like, if I did inspire them, you know, like, I don't want to claim that I did, but if I did, like, that's super awesome and I'm glad that I could, you know.
What would you like to say to, like, all those people that have been a part of Foxnight and help you bring to fruition kind of your idea to curate these artists? And...
Well, it wouldn't have happened without any of them, you know? If nobody showed up, nobody wanted to perform, no one wanted to sell their clothes or their paint, their, you know, picture or whatever while they're there, it wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't have ever existed, you know? I would have done 1 year and no one showed up and then I'd call it a day, you know? So I owe everything that Foxnight is to everyone who's ever been involved. I'm, you know, as much as it was my idea, it's like very minimally like supported by me. Like I'm the host, I'm the, you know, curator of the show. But if no one showed up, like what the fuck is the point, right? Like these people like put trust in me, knowing that like I'm trying to do this thing that they want to be a part of, and then all of a sudden what they're doing makes what I'm doing even more important. So like that's the whole sense of community that I want from Foxnight. It's like it's about my friends and the people I like, and the, you know, even if I don't hang out with this dude all the time or I barely talk to him and he's just like some artist that I really fucking like, them being a part of it is important to me, and it becomes important to them, and then suddenly it just is this cycle of like we have this community now, and there's, you know, people that expect to get called back to Foxnight the next year because they had such a good time and they want, you know, they'll come up to me even if they sold nothing all night. They'll be like, yo, tonight was so much fun, like thank you so much for having me, like next year I'm absolutely there.
Yeah, even if there's no monetary gain, there is still an experience to have.
And it's exposure, and it's, you know, and I don't want to claim that I give anybody like any significant amount of exposure, but at the same time it's still like a night that everyone has a great time. And that's, I think, kind of few and far between with shows a lot of places, not even just in fucking Ohio or Cincinnati. It's just a lot of times people go and do stuff like that at a show and they're like, well, that was a waste of time.
Well, I think you're bringing a lot of the highlights from like some of the best acts in Ohio and Cincinnati and other places that you curate, especially you're curating local things. It's like, imagine a whole month of just all these different artists that are performing, but you're bringing them together in this one place for this one night, for this one performance. And it's like, I think that's what's special about it, is I wish there were more of that where we got to experience all the things we like in one night and just bring all different people together.
I think the big thing is about like Foxnight is that it's not just like what everyone likes, it's like what I like. Maybe I have good taste, but like I'm not usually like asking other people like, should I put this dude on the show or not? You know, it's normally just like me alone, knowing I like this guy, I like this dude, I like this girl, I like whatever, like, and I put them on the show because it's my show. Mm-hmm. And it's like almost the responsibility of me to be the one that's like, hey, come, you know, it'd be the same if I worked at like a museum and I was like, this is my art exhibit. Come check out the things I put in here. It's my call. I didn't make them, but I put them in here. So do you like them all together? And if it works, then it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But like, it's my fucking call at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And that sort of becomes my responsibility. It's like, I'm stoked on these people. I know that like, if you have any amount of taste, you're going to like them too. So boom, let me put them all in one place at once and you're going to fucking enjoy your night.
Yeah. I think that there's something to be said for that, man. And I really like respect the fact that you go out of your way to help other people, and especially me, considering you let me DJ the 4th Foxnight.
Yeah, I wish you would have. We wish we would have been able to do 5 this year.
Dude, today would be cool too.
Today would be dope as well. But no, I wish that we would have been able to do 5 this year, man. I was so stoked on 5, and it, like I had more planned for 5 than I ever have had for any of them, and it just this year was not.
I think that it's really gonna come together though when people are actually actually able to come back for that, I think there's going to be more of a demand that people want to actually go.
It might be
and see
surprising because of the fact that, like, you know, it's an annual thing. Like, every April, there's a Foxnight.
Yeah.
We went this year. I don't think anyone was surprised that it didn't happen this year. But at the same time, like, when they see it next year, they're going to be like, oh, shit, it's back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's time for another Foxnight. Like, we needed a year off. Everybody was fucked up. Everybody had all these fucking issues. And, you know, the society of America was all fucked. And everybody's business was screwed. And shit was closed.
Man.
And, like,
yeah.
I don't want to do a Foxnight where you got to stand 6 feet away from each other. Like, that's just not what I'm.
That's not the Foxnight that's in mind.
Foxnight is everybody hugging each other and like getting stoked about everything that's happening. That's just a totally not like the vibe that I want for Foxnight. I don't want people to be standing like afraid of being near each other type shit. It's just not going to happen. So I'm just going to hold off until next year, make sure that everybody I got coming out is still coming out, make sure I got everything lined up, and then Foxnight 5.
On that note, are there any songs you've performed every Mockbee? I know that's over 4 years worth of your material and you're ever changing, but are there any songs that have ever been reperformed that stand out to you?
I almost always start my set with Reanimate. That's just because it's a good lead-in. I don't know if my next set will start with Reanimate. It might start with something else because I have a lot more songs and some of them are a lot better. But people seem to like register, like it grabs the attention of the audience to like start out with the Reanimate, and it's just
which the video is out now.
The video is out now. Shout out to Aubrey. But at the same time, I try to not ever really do the same set list. Like any show I'm doing, I make a set list for. It's not like I have the set list that I just do over and over and over.
Are you just combining that? Just like, is there a certain vibe you're trying to follow or like a storyline?
I think a lot of it comes down to like knowing like who am I on this show with. Like if I'm doing like a rap show, I'm gonna probably put a lot more of my rap songs into my set than I will if I'm like opening for some like rock band or some shit. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's one of the benefits of being like a multifaceted artist?
Oh, absolutely. The fact that I have that much shit to like draw from in terms of my catalog, like that is certainly like beneficial. But at the same time, like I don't ever want to seem like I'm patronizing or like pandering to this audience because I know they're gonna like these songs better. There's certain songs that I'm like, yeah, like I always want this song to be in my set regardless of what. Like I'm always gonna do Asthma. I don't care if I'm like doing a trap show. Like I'm always gonna fucking do Asthma. And it might not register with all those people, but at the same time, like it's just one of those songs I'm not gonna not do. But it is like, you know, it's normally most people would probably have somebody to fucking make those decisions for them. I'm doing all this for myself, so like I have to be the one to make those decisions. So I have to understand like if I'm opening for Lil Pump or some shit, I'm not gonna do a lot of my like emo guitar songs. I'm gonna fucking do a lot more of my like rap shit. Because
what songs would be in a Lil Pump set for Riverkin?
Oh, definitely Reanimate. Definitely like some shit like fucking Back to the Basics. Maybe like Kenophobic. I don't know. I would do like most of my rap shit.
Son of Sam, maybe.
Oh, I don't know if I would ever do. I have done actually a couple times at Foxnight. I've done some Fool tracks. Fool is like a totally like I don't even consider Fool as like part of my set. But a lot of what I have to like understand is, you know, who am I? What's my demographic at this show?
Have you ever pulled up to a show and you kind of have an idea for who the people are going to be in mind, and then you pull up there and they're not at all who you thought it was going to be?
No, honestly, normally I'm pretty fucking spot on with who I'm performing to. A lot of it comes down to like if I'm headlining, that's different.
No, I'm not talking about headline. I'm talking about maybe like an act, like a big act with let's say they have 1 million followers, and then you get hit up by a promoter like, hey, I want you to be on this set like at this time.
I would probably almost always make that conscious decision of like what do I put in my set. I'd make it way before I'd even get there. I'm not gonna ever pull up and be like, you know, I might be surprised because like there's certain songs, like I said, like I always need to have in my set. And I might be surprised at the reaction from this crowd that I didn't think were gonna like that song, you know? And they might love it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yo, well, maybe I should have done my set the way I would have done it if it wasn't for this audience. But at the same time, like, it's almost always just me reading the fucking, you know, what I think is the right way to do my set. I'm just, you know, looking at the set list or looking at the people that are on it, the roster of the show or whatever, and saying like, yo, okay, I'm sure that their audience, especially if I'm opening, it's like more like I'm sure their audience is gonna like this song better than that one. And you know, obviously it all depends on like what kind of style of music does the headliner do, but I don't want to lose the integrity of like, yo, there's certain songs, like I said, like I'm gonna do every time, and if they hate it, they hate it, but I'm gonna fucking do this song because it's important to me to do this song. Otherwise, it's basically just like, pay attention to where you're fucking at. Like, you gotta read the fucking crowd before you're even in front of them. It's just part of what I do as a fucking career. Like, you gotta fucking know who you're singing to. You gotta know your audience before you even get in front of them.
Truer words were never said. I think my last question for you is, what can we see from you with the rest of 2020, maybe leading into 2021?
Well, like I told you earlier, I'm already working on another album or like an EP maybe. I don't know. It's stupid to even like put labels on it because I just like I'm working on music, right? Could be an EP, could be an album, could be what the fuck ever. Like whatever you want to call it. I don't fucking give a shit. I'm working on music and I want to have a project, regardless of what the fuck the project would be labeled as. I want a project out on my birthday, which would be November 21st. Scorpio gang, baby. Oh wait, there's the camera. Oh like,
You're like, where's that shit?
Yeah,
at,
looking
man?
all over the fucking place.
Thank you, sir.
But yeah, man. I'm working on another project for November. I'm trying my best to like keep fucking some sort of grip on Foxnight for next year. Just, you know, I always book the venue like 7 or 8 months in advance.
Yeah.
So it's like I spend half my year working on Foxnight and then I do it and then it's like fucking Nightmare Before Christmas, like, oh, next Halloween, like day one we're working on the next Halloween type shit.
Is there another level of stress you endure while you're going through that, while you're trying to put that together?
Foxnight? Are you kidding me, dude? It literally gives me the most anxiety of anything in my life.
It's crazy how something that is the pinnacle of what you want as an artist is actually the source of so much anxiety and stress.
It's so stressful, man. And I do it because I love it, not because it makes me feel great. You know what I mean? Like,
isn't that weird?
It's weird, but at the same time, like, it makes me better. Every year I get better. Every year I get better at doing it. Every year, like, I face a fear, basically. If I'm getting better and better every year, then that means that I'm probably doing something right. And so it, like, that's the confidence that it puts in me. It gives me this sort of like boost of, you know, and I'll take that and I'll run with it into my, you know, live performances for shows that I'm not curating. I'm not fucking setting up. Like, let's say I just did Foxnight. It went super well. Everything fucking went great. And then I've got a show next week in LA or some shit. And I didn't, you know, necessarily have to take all of the things that I learned or got good at from Foxnight, but it gives me that momentum. Momentum is the best word I could use to like describe like what you need in terms of like being a musician like I am. In my, you know, I'm a career musician. I don't have like a manager. I don't have a label or a distributor other than like DistroKid on, you know, Apple Music and Spotify and shit. Pretty much independent at this point. I don't know if that would necessarily be the word I would use because obviously I have DistroKid and shit. So I don't think that.
That's a distributor though.
Regardless, like I'm making all of my music for myself. I produce everything. I mix everything. I master everything. I record everything myself. I write everything myself. Like I play every instrument. Like don't use samples. I don't like everything is me. So to have something else that I do outside of that like is still like in the same vein of you know, entertainment, right? I'm throwing a musical show, basically. But if I can be successful at that, then it just shows me that like maybe you have a lot more to offer than just your voice on a track, you know, and it becomes sort of this proud moment of, you know, I especially seeing the gradual like progression, you know. You look back at Foxnight 1 versus Foxnight 4, they were very different shows. You know, it went from Foxnight 1, me bringing my own sound, and there's no stage at all, and there's no sound or lights or anything. I had to bring my own lights. I had to bring, to now, the mock B is like totally fucking set up. There's the stage, there's the sound. The sound is amazing. The fucking lights are crazy. Like, all this that became of this venue that I like put some stake in at the beginning. And suddenly now it's this thing, and it's a lot easier for me to do what I do. But at the same time, like, I still need to outdo myself every year without it being because of the venue getting better lights or the venue getting better sound. I need it to be because I'm better. And so it becomes this very important sort of thing to me of like this progression I find without being involved with me. It's not just about me. You know, obviously I find pride in it, and I find some solace and some like progression by seeing that it do better. But majority of the time it's, you know, it's about all these other people. And the fact that I can like come away with this show like knowing that like, oh, my homie had a really good set and people liked it, and I put him there, you know, and I paid him for his fucking time. I was able to do all these things that I've always wanted the people that booked me to do for me, you know. Made sure that you're good, made sure you got water, made sure you got paid, made sure you're on stage at the right time, made sure you know, like all that shit.
If there's anything that you want to close on, what would it be? Anything you want to say before we wrap this up?
I don't know, man. Thank you. Thanks for talking to me.
Thanks for talking to me.
I have missed you for a long time. I'm glad that I'm back in Phoenix.
It's nice to see you back here.
Yeah, it's nice to be back, for real. Other than the fucking 115 degrees. That sucks. But
we seem to be escaping it here, though.
Yeah. Well, regardless, I'm very happy to speak with you, and I hope that I don't sound like I'm rambling or ranting when I speak.
No, I think you've made a lot of great points tonight.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Otherwise, I just hope everybody is safe, and I hope everyone has, you know, all their shit in order. It's a weird time. I wish that it was not as weird as it is, but here we are, and Foxnight 5 will probably have to happen in 2021. So I know we spent most of the time talking about Foxnight, but
that's a very important part.
It's an important part of my life, so.
Yeah.
Buddy, otherwise,
I love you.
I love you too, man.
It's been great talking.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. I always look up there like it's gonna be on the fucking wall. Love you guys. Be safe. Peace. Wear your mask. Wipe your ass. Love you.